Good afternoon, race fans. Welcome here as we get set for our final road course stop of the season for the NNSCRA Gaming Indycar Series. That's right, folks. It's the last time these drivers will be turning to the right in any portion of this season, because next week we cap it off with the season finale, decide a champion at the Indianapolis 500 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Today we're on the West Coast, though, in wine country. This is Infineon Raceway, Sonoma Raceway, or for you old school folks, Sears Point, as we're getting set for 23 laps of road course racing here today. And this is the race that's going to set us up to know who's going to mathematically be eligible for that championship when we reach next week's season finale at the Yard of Bricks. There are only 16 points separating the top 5 in the stands, and a number of those drivers that are still, in the hunt for the championship coming into this race are up here at the front of the field. Case in point, Chris Dodd, lining up on the pole position for today's race, comes into this race second in the point standings, 7 points back. He's got a shot today to maybe go into Indianapolis as the points leader, or at least be within a striking shot of picking up the championship. He's also looking, along with Noah Cars, who makes up the front row, to become the first repeat winner this season. So far, we have had 9 different races. 9 different drivers have gone to victory lane. Charles Jackson, the most recent, last week at Pocono. Let's take a look here at your starting lineup. We gave you the front row already there with Chris Dodd and Noah Cars. Mason Wood will line up on the inside of row 2 alongside of Cole Baker. Johnny Gardner there in row 3 with Tripatacu Vernio. And in row 4, Pichu London with Jordan Lopez. The 5th row, top 5, completed by Matt Haas and Jay Jefferson. Matthew Rodriguez lines up alongside of Nathan Ormond. Hot streak Jonathan Zorlin, 2 straight finishes that have been really good, including a win a couple of weeks ago. He lines up alongside of Zach Flickinger. Kev Shearer alongside the points leader, Eli Bright. And then it's Jacob Rose alongside Carson Gum. And the final 2 rows, Jake Rogers with last week's winner, Charles Jackson. And Alexander Rowe alongside of Austin LaPlante. 23 laps here today. The track conditions very slick. So these drivers are going to be fighting to try and find grip. That's been something that's been the case for most of the road course races we have had this entire season, and it will be no less in this one here today at Sonoma. Eli Bright comes in as the points leader, 7 points over a 2-way tie for the second position between Chris Dodd and Jacob Rose. They are 7 points back each. 12 points back is Tripatacu Vernio, and 16 points back is Matt Haas. Let's get the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Right now, those 5 are in contention still for the championship, but a lot could change depending on what happens in today's race here at Sonoma. The rest of your top 10 coming into this race in points are Kev Shearer 6th, 7th Noah Cars, 8th is Jonathan Zorlin, 9th Carson Gum, and Mason Wood completes your top 10. Chris Dodd in that inside line on the outside of that paperclip turn 11. Takes him a little bit longer to get around it, get it up here to the front row, but now they're all lined up. And for the final road course start this season, race number 10 at Sonoma. Green flag is out, let's roll! Chris Dodd timing the jump perfectly. He's gonna, looks like, get just ahead of Noah Cars, and so he will clear and take the race lead into turn 1. But here comes Noah Cars again, back on the outside line. Can't make the move as he'll have to give way to Chris Dodd through these S's, the uphill S's. Cars slips into second, battle on for third. Cole Baker side by side with Mason Wood. Tripatacu Vernio right there in that 5th position, waiting to see which lane's going to open up. Hard braking zone as they'll enter into the downhill S's of this course. Cole Baker will now clear. He'll take the 3rd position. Mason Wood falls back to 4th. Vernio now in 5th. As up front, Noah Cars trying to reel in Chris Dodd. Both of these drivers with wins this season at road courses. Noah Cars winning the first road course race of the season at St. Petersburg. Chris Dodd went to victory lane in, I believe it was our last road course stop of so far at Toronto. No, I'm incorrect. Nope, he went to victory lane at Toronto. Our last road course stop was actually at Mid-Ohio. Apologize for that. That's where Zorlin went to victory lane. But nonetheless, was correct in the statement that both drivers, their wins this season have come at road courses, and the top two are currently those two drivers. Battle is on for fourth. Tripe and Vernio all over the back bumper of Mason Wood. And if these two continue to battle, that may bring Johnny Gardner 6th place, 7th place Matt Haas into this group. Vernio being a little patient right there with Mason Wood. Some drivers would try putting a bumper to the car in front of them, get them a little squirrely off the corner to make the move to the inside in that right-hander, but Vernio realizing it's a long ways to go in this one, plenty of time to be able to make a move. Looks like Vernio's car just a little bit faster than Mason Wood's. And already the gap has grown between first and second, a full second in hand over Noah Cars does Chris Dodd have. This battle on for the fourth spot, and there's another battle going on behind them with Johnny Gardner and Matt Haas, and all of a sudden this has turned into a four-way fight for the fourth position. Mason Wood gets by, and look at Johnny Gardner. He was in a battle with Matt Haas for that 6th spot, and just like that, he went in flying into turn 11, tried taking the 5th position away from Tripe and Vernio, not able to do it, and now here comes Matt Haas again, back for that 6th spot. Talk during the grid, red-hot Jonathan Zorlin. His finishes have been unbelievable in the last couple of weeks. Of course, his win at Mid-Ohio and a great run last week at Pocono. This is a guy that if we can see him get up here into maybe the top 5, he could be in the hunt for that championship next week at Indianapolis. There you see Eli Bright just outside of the top 10. I think he's currently scored in the 13th position. The drivers he has to worry about would be Jacob Rose and Chris Dodd, both coming into this race 7 points back from the points lead. Now Jacob Rose is about 4 cars behind him. You see him there, that yellow car traversing the S's, just about 3 cars behind him in the 16th position. The problem for Eli Bright, though, is that Chris Dodd is ahead of him, out in front showing the way. He's already picked up a bonus point for leading a lap. If he stays out in front for a majority of this thing, he'll get another bonus point for leading the most laps. And with him running in the lead right now, and Eli Bright outside of the top 10, Chris Dodd could be the points leader heading into our season finale next week at Indy. Noah Cars, though, still just about a second and a half back, and that battle for 4th place is heated up again. Tripe and Vernio all over the back bumper of Mason Wood. The big problem here with Infineon is not only are these drivers fighting the lack of grip, but they're also trying to find the best passing zones. A lot of drivers like to make the passes over in the S's, but we've seen so many times those S's are almost like a one-lane area. You have to really mess up the preferred line going through that corner, and a lot of times drivers will slip up and not only wreck themselves, but wreck the driver they're trying to pass for position. And so you don't see a whole lot of passing so far going on there in the S's. One of the best spots I've seen drivers try and make the move is down here in that paperclip turn 11, trying to outbrake their opponent. Vernio get a little bit wider off the corner to allow him better straightaway speed down here. Now he'll try and outbrake Mason Wood down here into turn 11. Runs just a little bit lower. The only problem with running lower is you usually can't get back to the throttle off the corner as soon as the driver. We saw Mason Wood maybe about a quarter of a groove higher through there, and he was able to get back to the throttle a little bit sooner than Vernio, which helped him keep that position. Battle is on for the 6th position again. Johnny Gardner, Matt Haas, and Haas almost made the move. He tried using the outside line there through the uphill turn 1, and now he's going to try it again here, trying to get the run. He's still alongside, Can he make the move here through this right-hander? He's trying, and if this battle continues side by side, it may carry into the S's. Gardner trying to outbrake Matt Haas. Haas not going to have any of it. They will be side by side, and I think Matt Haas will complete the pass. He will indeed. Nice move by the 28. And there's another battle back here. This is for the 8th position between Nathan Ormond and Jordan Lopez. A couple of drivers who really aren't in the hunt for the championship anymore. They've been having rather mediocre seasons, and now just trying to finish out the year with as best finishes they can get here at both Sonoma and next week at Indianapolis. Battles on for the 10th spot. Matthew Rodriguez trying to crack the top 10. Our Texas race winner bypassing Pichu London, and then our winner from Iowa, Zach Flickinger's in this mix, along with the points leader, Eli Bright. Rodriguez will make the pass, clear London, move him to 10th. Meanwhile, Matt Haas appears to be the driver on the move right now. He got by Johnny Gardner, and now he's been able to reel in Tripentacchi Vernio. This would be for the 5th position. Matt Haas coming into this race 16 points back from the points lead, so you know that he really needs to utilize today at Sonoma to have himself in the best position possible to maybe battle for the championship next week at Indianapolis. The big problem for him, Eli Bright, Vernio, they're all running pretty well. Eli Bright just outside the top 10, around the 12th position. Vernio up here in 5th, Haas in 6th. The problem for them is Chris Dodd, who came in tied for 2nd in points, is out in front dominating this thing. They need him to be back somewhere around where they are, around 10th, 11th, 12th place, for it to really play into their benefit. Right now, with him out in front, logging laps and leading laps, it's not in their best interest. Doesn't put them in a favorable championship situation next week at Indy. I mean, Vernio came into this race 5 points back from Chris Dodd. With where he's running, he would lose another 5 points. That'd be at least a 10-point advantage he'd have to overcome next week in Indianapolis. Eli Bright came in 7 points over Chris Dodd, and with him running around the 12th position, he would be losing about 12 spots. That's about 5, 6, 7 points he would be behind Chris Dodd heading into next week. And Matt Haas came into this race 9 points behind Chris Dodd, so he right now would lose roughly 7 points, and that would put him 23 points back from Chris Dodd heading next week in Indianapolis. Still a long ways to go. We haven't even reached the halfway point of this race, so anything can still happen. One thing that we didn't bring up that's a possibility here at this track, this West Coast the temperature here is boiling. So these drivers have to take care of their equipment. They have to make sure that they don't flat spot the tires, have the tires blister. The sun's been beating down on this track all day long before these drivers rolled out onto the grid. Also got to take into consideration maybe your water temperatures. Avoid the possibility of overheating. Just because these drivers are spaced out by about a second over each other, 2 seconds up here at the front between the top 3, doesn't necessarily mean they're out for a country drive. They are constantly having to be aware that there is a number of things that could go wrong and end their day. Whoops, what I hit there. Look at the pace car, yay. Oh, that's why. I was hitting the Control V instead of the Shift V. And that's why it ended up sending me to the pit lane camera. Oh, I hit it again. Wow, I'm an idiot. There we go. Boy, it took me a little time to get back there looking at Noah Cars. Noah Cars comes into this race 7th in the point standings, and Chris Dodd running ahead of him obviously isn't in his best interest either, but this good run that he's having right now, especially with the fact that he's ahead of Eli Bright, certainly helps Noah Cars to maybe find himself back in the championship picture heading into next week. Noah Cars winning the very first race of the season at St. Petersburg and having a very good run here today. Last time out we were at a road course at Mid-Ohio. Cole Baker had some issues but was able to battle back for a pretty decent finish, and right now running in that 3rd position. I think Baker is looking, I might be wrong, but I think he's looking for his first podium finish of the season. And this battle back here is the best battle going on right now. 4th, 5th, and 6th. Mason Wood, Vernio, and Matt Haas, they were almost literally nose to tail in a 3-car tandem there going down the downhill section into that hard right-hander. Now they've kind of gapped each other, realizing they have to give a little bit of room to each other going through the S's. These 3 may end up having some company as well, because Johnny Gardner's right there, Jordan Lopez within striking distance, Nathan Ormond there, along with Matthew Rodriguez. Looks like Mason Wood going to leave this battle for the 5th position, at least for the moment. Ooh, Matt Haas peeked out of line there, and that really messed up his corner going into turn 11, and just like that, he's now got Johnny Gardner on his back bumper trying to take back the 6th position. Top 10 have really broken away. You're looking at 10th place Matthew Rodriguez. You can see there's a big gap back to 11th place, which currently I believe is Zach Flickinger. Flickinger in 11th, Eli Bright there in 12th, and 13th Jacob Rose. This is what Jacob Rose needed was to at least get within the vicinity of Eli Bright, because he came into this race 7 points behind the 26, and so at least keeping Eli Bright within striking distance means Jacob Rose would be right now less than 10 points behind Eli Bright. We'd have to see after this race so where they'd be in relation to Chris Dodd, though. But I think right now the goal for Jacob Rose, with the starting position that he had, starting close to the rear of the field, like the rear of mid-pack, was he needed to at least have only one position separating himself and Eli Bright. And if he can pass Eli Bright, that would help his cause out even more. So this could be a very valuable position for Jacob Rose to pick up if he can get to the back bumper of Eli Bright and be able to make the move for that position. One driver we haven't talked about that is in the hunt still in the top 10 in the point standings. Actually, a couple of drivers, 2 drivers that I can see as we were watching that battle go on, with Matt Haas making the move for the 5th position on Mason Wood. But 2 drivers, one being Carson Gum, the other being Kev Shearer. Let's see where they're running. There's Carson, back right now in the 20th position, not the run that he needed. Jonathan Zorlin right there as well in the 18th spot. He came into this race 8th in points. And there is Kev Shearer trying to make the move on Charles Jackson, as both of them battling right behind Jay Jefferson. Jackson winning last week at Pocono. Kev Shearer right now would be scored, I think, around the 16th. I think he just took the 16th spot away from Charles Jackson. So these were 3 drivers that came into this race 6th, 7th, and 8th and 9th in the points. Had a shot if they could pick up a win here or be up inside the top 3 to maybe be in the hunt for the championship. But the way things are looking right now, they may find themselves mathematically ineligible for competing for the championship next week unless something drastic happens up here to drivers inside of the top 10. Matt Haas determined to get that 4th position away from Tripe and Tacky-Vernio. And these 2 are slowly starting to close in on Cole Baker. So if they continue running the lap times they're running right now, we could have a 3-way fight for the 3rd spot, which would be the podium position, the final podium position. Noah Kars still running in 2nd. That's the good news. The bad news is he has been losing ground to Chris Dodd every lap. About 5 laps in, he was a 2nd behind. About 10 laps in, he was about 2.5 seconds back, and now we're about to complete our 12th lap of the race, and he is about 3 3/4 seconds behind the 7 car. Chris Dodd not only trying to, he's got like a checklist. He's got like 3 different things he's trying to do here today. First, he's trying to put himself in the points lead. Second, he's trying to have himself in the hunt for the championship next week in Indianapolis. And third, he's trying to become the first repeat winner this season. We mentioned 9 races this season, 9 different drivers going to victory lane. Right now, the highest running driver to continue on that streak would be Cole Baker, but he's back in 3rd, over 7 seconds from the race lead. Both Chris Dodd in 1st and Noah Kars in 2nd have been to victory lane this season. So the odds right now in favor of our first repeat winner, and who would have thought it would have taken place all the way this late in the season at race number 10. We are past the halfway point now in this race as well. Halfway point was about halfway through lap 11. We are now about to complete lap 13. And that gap you see continues to grow. Last time by, it grew by about another 1/4 of a second, I believe. A little over 2/10. I'd be very interested to see if being out in front, being in clean racetrack, just being able to hit your marks, if that allows for you to turn faster lap time. Or is it actually being behind another driver? Is draft anything that can be utilized at a track like Infineon? Another 1/4 second gap advantage put there that lap by Chris Dodd. Let's take a look and see what the fastest lap is laid down by so far today. Well, can't say I'm that surprised. Matt Haas has had a rocket underneath him here today. He has fought his way up into the top 5. He's still hounding Tripataki Vernio for that 4th position. He is the fastest car on track right now, 113.277 his fastest lap. That is 2 tenths faster a lap time than Chris Dodd had. Chris Dodd does have the 2nd fastest lap time with a 113.420 blaze it. Matthew Rodriguez 3rd fastest, and he's mired back in 10th. Vernio, who's running 4th, he was 4th fastest with a 113.7, 1/1000th slower than Matthew Rodriguez, and then the 5th fastest lap laid down by 2nd place Noah Cars with a 113.824. Jacob Rose, Kev Shearer, Cole Baker, Nathan Norman, and Charles Jackson have the top 10 fastest laps. Only 9 drivers have been able to hit the 113s at all. Charles Jackson with 114 flat in 10th place. And as I said, these two, Vernio and Matt Haas, they were slowly reeling in Cole Baker, and now they've caught him. So it's a battle now for that final podium position. Cole Baker, as mentioned, to my knowledge, did not have a podium finish so far this season. Now he's going to have to play a lot of defense to try and hang on to that 3rd spot, because we know Vernio's fast, we know Matt Haas is fast. Every lap so far, Chris Dodd has been able to continue to grow his lead by about 25 1/1000ths of a second. 25 100ths, I should say. Basically 2.5 tenths. And we'll see if he grows it this time. If he does, it should be somewhere around a full 5-second gap between himself and Noah Cars. And by the way, with Chris Dodd leading at this point, he has locked up the bonus point for most laps led as well. So that's 2 bonus points he picks up today, leading a lap and leading the most laps. And, well, he only gained about a 10th that time on Noah Cars. He gained, but not nearly as much as he's been gaining. You gotta wonder if maybe that's a sign that the 7's starting to back off just a little bit. Maybe his crew chief telling him, hey, you've got a big advantage right now between yourself and 2nd place. Don't use up your stuff too much. Don't take any unnecessary risks. Back off a little bit. Maintain a reasonable pace. And just try and ride this thing to the finish without any mistakes. That battle for 3rd is where we really have to keep our eyes on, because that's the best battle right now, at least up close to the front of the field. Could throw a blanket over these 3. They all crossed the line last time by, separated by only half a second. And if Vernio has trouble getting around Cole Baker, Matt Haas might be there to be able to take the 4th position. Or if Cole Baker makes a mistake, we could find him from 3rd all the way back to 5th in the matter of a couple of corners. Vernio drives it deep there into turn 11, tries to get to the back bumper of Cole Baker. He got off the corner pretty nicely too, did Vernio, keeping in touch there. Car. There's also a good battle back here. They've gotten wadded up from about the 7th position on back, from Johnny Gardner on back, and that has allowed Flickinger, Eli Bright, and Jacob Rose to catch up to this group. And that's 11th, 12th, 13th we're looking at right there, the 15, 26, and 5. So there still is an opportunity for Eli Bright and Jacob Rose to crack the top 10 before this race is over. You can see right there, all these drivers so close and wadded up together. So there is a big opportunity for some track position to be gained and some positions to be gained here for the points leader and the guy who came in tied for 2nd in the points standings, Eli Bright and Jacob Rose. Like we've documented, it's just so difficult to pass here and find some passing zones. Mason Wood right now in 6th, leading this big group of race cars. That's 6th place back to 13th, you saw right there, all in one shot. And all separated by about maybe 3 seconds, which isn't much here at Infineon. It's Penske right now, actually 6th, 7th, 8th with Wood, Gardner, and Ormond. While Baker, and I don't want to jinx anything, but if I'm not mistaken, I think that gap between 2nd place Noah Cars and 3rd place Cole Baker is now closing up. So as the gap increases between the race leader Chris Dodd and second place Noah Kars, the gap between second place Noah Kars and this battle for third is beginning to close. Last time by, it was about 4 seconds difference between Baker and Kars. We'll have to see if that gap opens up or closes this time. And like I said, I don't think there's a whole lot of opportunity for draft to be able to play a factor into lap times, but this may be a clear case of that happening. I mean, we saw it before. Cole Baker was running by himself in third. Vernio and Haas were battling each other for fourth, but they were able to catch Cole Baker. That was 2 cars against 1, so maybe there is an opportunity for draft. The only place I can really see where draft could come into play, though, would be this straightaway right here coming down into turn 11, and then potentially the straightaway going down to the S's. Here comes Vernio. Big drive down there into turn 11. Some might call it a dive bomb, although he really didn't drive it that deep on Baker, and he can't make the move this time. Let's see if the gap opens up at all between second and third, and it's about 4.3 seconds, so it actually increased a tiny bit that time. And speaking of time, time is ticking away. These laps are ticking away. We've run this entire thing so far under green flag conditions. There's been no incidents to speak of at all either in this race, which is quite unusual. Our camera crew and our people back in the NNSCRA trailer not having a whole lot to do with the NNSCRA split cam today. And next time by, it will be 4 laps to go for Chris Dodd in the 7th. Chris Dodd, obviously, we can't take anything away from what he's been able to do here today, dominating this race, maintaining a reasonable gap, and looking to become the first repeat winner, as well as the points leader and maybe the favorite heading into next week's championship race at Indianapolis. The problem is, being out front, watching him is kind of boring, and with the battles going on track, most of the footage today has been not on him. But obviously we can't take anything away from the fact of the job he has done so far, and he is continuing to grow that race lead again. He's now stepped it back up and now has almost little under 7 seconds between himself and Noah Kars. Noah Kars is obviously going to have a good point day here today, but I don't know in what position he's going to be heading into next week, if he'd mathematically still be in the hunt for the championship or not. Well-needed runs there as well by Vernio and Matt Haas. Now they're going to obviously lose a little bit of ground to Chris Dodd, but not much. Matt Haas will lose about maybe 5 points to Chris Dodd, as would Vernio. Vernio would lose maybe about 4 points. Vernio came in 5 points behind Chris Dodd, so he'd be about 9 points back. Matt Haas came into this race about 9 points behind Chris Dodd, so he'd be about maybe 13, 14 points back. But they still would be in that hunt for the championship next week, the way things look at this moment in time. Question is, though, what about Jacob Rose? What about Eli Bright with where they're currently running? As a matter of fact, we've had some good battles going on here in the top 10. Matthew Rodriguez has moved up now to the 8th position. Jordan Lopez has now cracked the top 10 as well, as he is in that 10th position. But you still got Flickinger there in 11th, Eli Bright in 12th, and Jacob Rose in 13th. And right now, with Bright running in 12th, Chris Dodd currently with lap lead, most laps led, and running in the lead, he would gain a total of 14 points on Eli Bright, which means right now it would be a 7-point advantage Chris Dodd would have over Eli Bright heading into next week. I mean, there's still going to be, I think, maybe 5, 6 drivers still in the hunt for the championship when we get to next week's race in Indianapolis. But I think the points separation is not going to be quite as close as you would think. I don't think it's going to be like 5, 6 drivers separated by 5 points. I think you'll see maybe as much as 21 points separating the top 6 drivers heading into next week, which still makes you eligible for the championship. You technically have to be within 24 points of the points leader heading into the season finale here in order to have a chance at winning the championship. And even then, you basically have to have everything go your way. The points leader finished dead last. The drivers ahead of you, whatever the point interval is between you and them finished down lower than a certain position. and you then have to lead the most laps, win the race. That's basically how you'd have to win the championship from 24 points back. To remotely have a shot at winning the championship, you'd have to probably be about 15 points or less back from the points leader. Chris Dodd, though, about to make history for the season. 6.9 seconds in hand over Noah Cars. The only person right now that can ruin his chances of winning would be Chris Dodd himself. Has dominated this race, led every single lap, so that's no bonus points available to anyone else. And as he makes his way through turn 11 and heads for the start-finish line, he will see the white flag. 9 races this season. 9 different drivers have gone to victory lane. Chris Dodd went to victory lane 3 weeks ago at Toronto. A race where I believe he actually started on the pole in that one as well. And is looking to pick up his 2nd win of the season. Become the points leader heading into the championship race next week in Indianapolis. And, like I said, more than likely be maybe the favorite, the odds-on favorite to win the championship next week at Indianapolis. The thing about Chris Dodd is he's not only been good on the road courses, he's also been good on the speedways. Had a pretty good run last week at Pocono. So it is still possible Chris Dodd could surprise us with a good finish next week at Indianapolis. But the streak will come to an end at 9 races, with having a different driver going to victory lane, as it looks like Chris Dodd will be the first repeat winner of the season. Down through the paperclip turn 11, he could coast if he wanted to and still win this race. Out of the final corner, he'll head for home. Chris Dodd will see his 2nd checkered flag of the season. He will win here today at Sonoma. Second win of the season, the points lead. Everything rests on his performance next week at Sonoma, and the question is, what's the points gap going to be between him and his competitors? I think that Noah Cars may still be in the hunt. Matt Haas, Vernio with top 5 finishes, I think they're going to still be in the hunt. Eli Bright and Jacob Rose, they'll still be mathematically eligible. I think it could be about 6 drivers that'll still be in this hunt for the championship. The question is, though, what are the point scenarios going to look like that we'd have to basically try and calculate at next week's race at Infineon in the Indianapolis 500, one of the most famous races on the circuit. Says session complete. I just want to make sure that all the drivers have crossed the line so we know the standings are indeed official, and apparently they are now. So Chris Dodd picks up the win. Noah Cars in 2nd. He was 7th in points. This 2nd place finish may have him still eligible for championship battle next week. Cole Baker, it's what I believe will be his first podium finish of the season. 3rd place for him, he was able to hang on. Matt Haas did finally make the move on Tripentacchi Vernio for 4th place, and he came into this race 5th in points. Vernio came in 4th in points. Those two, I think, will still have a shot at the championship next week. Mason Wood, he came in 10th in points, a 6th place finish, but I don't know if he'd be within the points window of being able to compete for the championship. We'll have to see. We could have Mason Wood be a long shot driver potentially. Johnny Gardner, his teammate, comes away with 7th. Matthew Rodriguez 8th. Nathan Ormond in 9th, and Jordan Lopez 10th. 11th for Zach Flickinger. Former points leader Eli Bright will finish in 12th. We'll have to see how far back he is for the points lead next week. Jacob Rose there in 13th. Kev Shearer gets 14th. He was 6th in points coming to this race. I don't know if he's going to still be eligible for the championship or not. Charles Jackson, after his win last week, 15th place run here today. Road courses haven't exactly been his specialty so far this season. Pichu London gets 16th, 17th for Jake Rogers, 18th Jay Jefferson. And I think we can say that Carson Gum, Jonathan Zorlin, who were both 8th and 9th in points coming to this race, I think they are now out of championship contention as they get 19th and 20th here today. Alexander Rowe, we never really saw him up at the front, nor did we see Austin LaPlante. Those two drivers started in the last row, and that's where they're going to finish, 21st and 22nd for those two drivers. But Chris Dodd, he looks like he's going to be the favorite heading into next week in Indianapolis, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win the championship. Who's going to be still in contention for that championship? Like I said, to really be in contention for the championship still, you got to be at least 24 points back or less. So we'll have to see what the scenario looks like going into next week's race. Next week, a driver will get to kiss the yard of bricks. Next week, the driver will get to host a championship trophy. Next week, a champion will be decided. Thanks for tuning in to today's race here from Sonoma. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the crew today. We've shown your full finish results. These are your point stands. You're seeing the drivers that are eligible for the championship heading next week's race at Indianapolis as we get ready to cap off what's been an unbelievable season as you've been watching a production of NNSCRA Off-Flying Racing at its best.